Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Thursday, the 2nd of September, 2021. Thank you for tuning in. Now, I got to lay down some background for you guys. China and the South China Sea, the area is not real. There's areas in the South China Sea. It's not real deep, the water. There's shoals made of sand, just down beneath the surface, maybe about 20 feet deep or so, And the Chinese went in there a number of years ago, and they started doing what's called dredging. What they did was they took that sand and they pumped it up, and they made these artificial islands. And it was an awful lot of work, and they built an awful lot of infrastructure in there. And then there was a court ruling about 5 years ago by The Hague that those areas where those new islands appeared that China actually built islands, were an area where the ruling was that the area was free for navigation, freedom of navigation for the open seas. It was considered to be like open seas, freedom of navigation. But now there's islands there that didn't used to be there. They weren't even on the maps. It was still considered to be, by The Hague ruling, to be open seas and basically freedom of navigation. Now, today, I get news, and let's open up the charts and take a look at the news. Start the charts right here. The Pentagon is blasting Beijing. They demand all ships in the South China Sea, or if they're going to go through the South China Sea, they have to register. A wide range of vessels goes through there. It says Chinese authorities would require a range of vessels to report their information when passing through what China sees as its own territorial waters, starting from September 1st. The rule is supposed to apply to the South China Sea, East China Sea, and various islands and reefs dotted across the water that Beijing claims as inalienable territory. Communist Party-run Global Times reported that such a rollout of the maritime regulations are a sign of stepping up efforts to safeguard China's national security at sea by implementing strict rules to boost maritime identification capability. Okay, so if we read down here a little bit further, it says, toward the bottom, they sum it up. To sum it up, it says, so the next time the U.S. warship crosses through the South China Sea and refuses to report its cargo and information to Beijing, keep a close eye on the results. It says here in this article, resulting fireworks. So this is a move that's going to definitely take tensions in that region up a couple notches on the bar. Let's just put it that way, in the South China Sea area. Something to keep our eye on that. Now, the South China Sea was already a hot spot, But now, I guess the tensions are going to be up a couple notches even higher. Now, Taiwan is another hot spot. We have hot spots around the world. Ukraine is another hot spot. Of course, Afghanistan is a super hot spot. We got these hot spots all over the world. Iran, hot spot. Different hot spots we got to keep our eye on and see if watch and see if nothing happens there. But this is a serious move 2 notches up in the South China Sea, which was already a hot spot. Let's take a look at the silver price today. $23.84 today. It's down 28 cents on the day so far. There's no reason for this, for silver prices to be down this much. The thing is I predicted way back, a long time ago, I predicted that the money would start to run out in the first quarter of 2022. Well, I'm going to tell you guys what. It's starting to run out already. So, it was massive amounts of money. I thought for sure it would last until the first quarter of 2022. That was my estimate. It's not. It's running out 4 or 5 months earlier than I thought, you know. And this is an awful bad sign that the system is more of a it's got more holes in it for the money to leak out than I thought, you know. And unless they keep the system full of money, full of liquidity, all these asset bubbles out there are going to start to burst, you know. And of course, they can't let them burst. Absolutely impossible. I watch so many economists here on YouTube and on these different shows that I watch and things, and there's a good percentage of them out there that believe that interest rates are going to go through way up, and they believe the economy's going to burst and everything's going to go down by 80% and all this kind of stuff. The problem with that is before the system would hit 80% down, it would lock up and freeze. Nothing will work. The derivatives, an awful lot of derivatives exposure out there, you know, and there's like $2 quadrillion worth of these derivatives. Interest rate swaps and things like that. They got the system so over leveraged with all this stuff that it would all start to freeze up, the system, if they let the asset bubbles burst. They're never going to let that happen, you know. They might let a few corrections happen, and even them they might step in on, you know, but they're never going to let this bubble burst. And so there's only one other alternative to all this. It's going to come at the cost of the fiat currencies. The dollar being the best one of them, you know. They're all going to go down together. In fact, they are all going down together. Okay. So when's that going to happen? When are all the fiat currencies going to go down? In a ball of flames. It's coming next year, guys. And possibly it's such a big thing, you know. If you got a big building like an enormously tall building, it takes a long time to fall. Even if it's in free fall. It takes a long time to come down. It takes 20, 30 seconds for it to collapse. And this is the biggest building. If it was a building, it'd be the biggest, tallest building in the world. It'd be so high it'd take hours to come down. So it's going to take all of 2022. It's probably going to take all of 2023, and we're going to see a disintegration during those years. Then probably around 2024, 2025, 2026, we're going to see a comeback. We're going to see reach our worst. We're going to reach our worst, and then there's going to be some sort of a new, they're going to make some sort of a new system or a new, they're going to remodel everything again. But this is going to be big. It's going to be huge. And it's going to take an awful lot of people are going to go down with it. The system is going to collapse in inflation. That's how it's going to collapse. Massive amounts of inflation on all the fiat currencies until they're complete. In the end, they're going to be completely valueless. And what's this going to do to people on fixed income? People who are not out of the dollar, they're only in the dollar. It's going to destroy them. There's going to be some reset at the end of all of this, as they establish a new monetary system. You know, but a new order is going to be established. A new monetary system is going to be established at the end of all this. But we're going to have to go through a lot of pain before we get there. And the pain is going to come in the purchasing power of what your fiat currencies can buy. And I'm going to tell you guys what. It's not going to be unlike the Weimar hyperinflation that hit Germany. You guys got to do something about it, and do something about it now. And here, right here, this is the best, in my estimation. In my opinion, this is the best thing, is physical silver. Is the best thing out there. And I've been this way for years on my channel. I've been telling you about physical silver. And look, today it's on sale. If you can still get some, and I think you can. You hunt around, you can get some. You might not get exactly what you want. You might not be able to get eagles, you know. You might have to settle for Canadian maple leafs or something like that, you know, but they're good too. They're really recognized, and also if you look at the Perth Mint coins and stuff, you know, you might be able to get something like that, and they're good too. And what you need is you need to have them in your possession. Don't let anybody else have them. Have them and keep them in your possession, you know. And us little guys, even though we're only buying little bits, maybe a coin here and a coin there, you know, but I'm going to tell you guys what, it's going to keep picking away at these guys out there. Every time you buy one coin, you're hurting them, you're damaging them, you're wrecking them. And hang on tight to those coins. Doesn't matter how they knock that spot price down. Keep your fist tightly wrapped around them. You know? And let these guys put them on sale. These jerks out there. 23.83 here, down 29 cents today. Don't let this upset you. All they're doing is putting it on sale for you. It's going to go up that much more on the other side of this. Gold's down $6.10 today. Okay, guys, listen. We're going to take a look at cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies is at 22.23. We've seen a big uptick in the overnight, you know, and now the Bitcoin price is testing $50,000. But, you know, with that kind of behind it, with that kind of money behind it, 2,223,000 in the industry, right? We should see a Bitcoin price of like 54,000. It's at 49,000. That's because the money has went into these altcoins. And that's a very strong indicator that we are in the solid and the meat now of this bull market. The bull market's on crypto right now, you know, and when you're in the meat of the bull market, you see the money piling into the altcoins. What you guys got to watch out for is when the money starts piling out of the altcoins and Bitcoin starts to go up. They all start to run into Bitcoin for safety, right? That's your signal that we're nearing the end of this rally. Okay? Okay, let's take a look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, 35,466. It's up 154 points on the day so far. This can go to the moon, too. Because it's all priced in dollars. And very often, you know, when you got a country where they're experiencing a hyperinflation, the stock market will go to the moon. They'll have the best performing stock market in the world because of the hyperinflating currency. Doesn't mean that your stocks are worth more in actual purchasing power. It just means that the dollar's worth less. Okay. So we're 35,466 today, and now we're going to take a look at oil. Where is my oil chart? There's the oil chart. $70.51, guys. We're up $1.92 today. It's jumped above $70 again for crude oil. The deflation might not come. It's got a window until March. I'm giving it a window until March. And if it hasn't arrived by March, the inflation's going to be so firmly entrenched that it wouldn't matter, because opinion will have switched by then. People will believe that the hyperinflation and inflation itself comes from people's impression of what the dollar's doing. If they think that the dollar's losing value, it's going to continue to lose value, then they don't trust it anymore at that point. Trust is lost. Faith is lost in it. And that's what causes the hyperinflation. And by March, if this inflation becomes firmly entrenched by March, well, all hopes that the bond market is going to the yields are going to rise and the bond market will be gone by then. And a impression on the people will come by then that this inflation's not transitory, it's not going away, and then they're going to start dumping the dollar by then, by March. So If this deflation hasn't come by March, we're going to be going into the hyperinflation rather quickly from there on in. Because they've already created enough money to create the hyperinflation. They don't need to create more money. We got money multipliers going on out there like crazy, you know? And they're doing every accounting trick that they can to try to quash the inflation right now. And they're talking a mean game to try to stop the inflation right now. But it doesn't matter, even if we had the deflation. They can't let it fall. So it would just put us into the hyperinflation even faster. We're going into a hyperinflation. And I know it's hard for you guys to get your head around that. See, the human brain has limitations. It has something called normalcy bias. People believe that things are going to continue on like they're continuing on now. And they can't perceive in their minds something like a hyperinflation. This is why we got the virus. When the virus was very small, and there was only a couple people over across the ocean that had it, you know. Very few. They were tracking the first people who had it. I come on the channel here, and I said, they need to stop all ships coming in, all airplane coming into our country. Everything needs to stop. They need to just basically block the borders off now and don't let anybody in or out. That's what I said. And there's nobody, not one person in America had it at that point when I said that. That's because I don't not have normalcy bias. I can see the strangest things happening. And this is why I can see the hyperinflation. I can picture it, visualize it. That where other people that have normalcy bias, they can't really see. They can't see the dollar being worth like it cost them $1,000 for a tomato at the grocery store. They just can't picture that. Because they have normalcy bias. But all of the evidence out there right now points that this is coming. And there's no way out. A tomato is going to cost $1,000 in about a year or two from now. You just can't picture that. You're like, oh, how can that be? It sounds like a fantasy. That's because you have normalcy bias. This has happened over and over again through history. Weimar Republic, they went through this. Don't think it can't happen here in America, here and in the United Kingdom and in Australia and all these other countries. Don't think it can't happen. It's going to happen and it will happen. And it's going to cause tremendous hardship for the entire world. And a lot more. It's going to cause, I believe that personally, that the whole system I don't believe is going to go down. You know, a lot of these people say, well, it's going to cause the entire system to completely collapse and we're going to be in a Mad Max. No Mad Max world. That's not going to happen. But what it will cause is problematic areas that will go down. Areas where the people are too unrestrained and the government can't control them. And those areas will go down. And they'll never come back. Our system now has reached its peak. It's like the peak on a chart, right? And now our whole empire that mankind's built in the world is going into decline. We've peaked. We peaked in 2019. And now this is the end of the empire, and the empire is going into decline. But it will continue. We will have still have lights and power and technology and everything else. It's just that areas will be not be able. There'll be areas that won't be able to be supported anymore. The system doesn't have enough resources to support certain areas. And those areas will go down, and after time goes by, land will grow up, like the concrete and the highways in those areas. The grass will grow up through cracks in the concrete, and after a while, the roads will fall to pieces, and they'll go back to dirt again in those areas. The telephone poles will all fall down in those areas, and it'll turn back into the vegetation will grow back up through everything, and it'll become basically like a wild zone. and they'll fence those areas off, and there'll be no-go zones, and they'll go back to nature again, those areas. Maybe some of them might be big cities, and they'll become like a ghost town. Anyway, that's what's coming, and that's what the hyperinflation's going to do. Now, if you're living in one of those areas where the unrest becomes off the scale, and the area goes basically grid down, you're going to be faced with a hard choice. Do I stay here and duke it out and try to make a life for myself here? Or do I go over to the area maybe 50 miles away where the lights are still on and try to live there? You're going to be faced with these choices, You might have to make these choices rather quickly when this hyperinflation gets going in a year or two from now, And there's going to be an awful lot of turmoil when this hits. But humans are resourceful. We are a very resourceful species, and we'll find our way through all of this. But there's going to be a couple bad years there. I think it's going to be 2022, 2023, 2024, And I think we're going to be coming out of it by about the end of 2024, moving into 2025, I don't think this thing's going to last real long, but it's going to be awful powerful when it hits. And you got to prepare yourself with gold and silver, and possibly cryptocurrencies. I'd have all three if I was you. And because of the hyperinflation, and that means you'll be able to eat, more than likely, Where your friends and neighbors are on the dollar, and that's all they got. The food prices and things, food's going to be one of the big things. It's going to be very, very, very expensive. If food was one of those things where you could store it away and it would never go bad, I'd say forget silver, let's put food away. But problem is everything has expiry dates on it and everything, and if you put food away as a store, it goes bad on you, and you can't keep it for very long, most foods, But food is going to be something that's really going to go up in value just as good as silver and gold. Just food. A can of food. I mean, there's going to be a time in this, I'm going to tell you guys exactly, there's going to be a time in this where a can of canned goods, they're not even going to care if it's expired. People will be so ravenously hungry. They'll take the clothes off their back and they'll give it to you for a can of canned food. That's how bad this is going to be. This is going to be poverty on a scale like people have never seen before, and especially food insecurity is going to be off the charts on this. Anger and everything else, It's not going to last. The worst, I'm going to get down. I'm going to tell you guys the worst of it, what I think the worst of it, how long it's going to be the worst of it. There's always the worst part of something, like when you get a hurricane. Just when the eye wall's coming over you for a few minutes, that's the worst part of the hurricane. Okay? I know that it takes a long time, the hurricane might be there all day, but most of it's not the worst part. The worst part is the eye wall. It's very short-lived, and that's the way with this hyperinflation. It's going to be a very short period of time where we're going to be in the worst of it. And I'm figuring it's going to be somewhere between 3 to 6 months long. It's going to be the worst of it. And things are going to start to improve a little bit. So it's not going to be real long. The worst part of it's only going to be 3 to 6 months. You got to get through that worst part of it. That's what you're preparing for right now, is the worst part of the hyperinflation. Not the lead-in period, but the worst part of it. A hump, in other words, a hump, about probably 3 to 6 months long. Actually, it's probably only going to be about 3 months long. 90 days. 90 days of pure torment. It's going to be very bad for everybody during that period, that very short period of time, before it ends, before it comes to its end, right? And then things will start to improve slowly from there on in, once they're through that worst part of the hyperinflation. But it's going to be so bad, it's going to adversely affect the world's population to a certain degree. And just because of the circumstances. Okay, let's move on today. And let's take a look now at Move Index. 5809, so it's down a little bit. Bonds and rates today. What we're looking at is live. President Biden delivers remarks on responses to Hurricane Ida. Oh, those poor people in Louisiana. See, here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. You see what the people that are living in that area in Louisiana are going through right now? That's going to last about 3 months. Seriously, let's get straight with it. Before they're back to relative normal, it's going to take another 3 months before normalcy starts to come back a little bit. So they're going through the same thing that you're going to go through with the hyperinflation. About a 3-month period, a really bad when the hyperinflation's at its worst. It's going to be probably the equivalent of what the people, but everybody on Earth's going to have to go through that. The equivalent of what the people in Louisiana are going through with the hurricane right now. It's not going to last forever. It's going to be probably a 3-month period of time when it's at its worst. And during that period in time, it's going to be very difficult. Very difficult. Worldwide, there's no place to escape from this. It's going to be every country on Earth. It's going to be a very difficult but I'm thinking about 3 months, the very worst of it. And the whole world's going to be in chaos. The only way you could escape it is if you're on some desert island someplace in the middle of nowhere, or the rich people. They already see this coming, guys. They know it's coming. They got their yachts. They're going to park them offshore during that 3-month period in time and let everybody on the landmass duke it out while they're offshore there in their yachts sipping at martinis. That's what they're planning on doing. That's their plan, you know. Anyway, what a crazy world we live in, but you got to prepare for this now. You got to have a plan A and a plan B. Plan A is to stay in your home, of course, obviously. Plan B is to bug out. You gotta have both plans. And I would recommend not bugging out with a backpack. You know, you might have to, but I'd recommend not doing it that way. I'd recommend bugging out in a vehicle. That's the best way to bug out, if you have to bug out. So you need to have both plans in place. You gotta have your house plan in place where you can stay in your house and you're gonna secure things at your home. But it might get too bad there. Right? And you might have to bug out. Now, you want a vehicle. A vehicle's much better than bugging out on foot. You can sleep inside a vehicle. You're out of the elements. You're out of the rain. It doesn't matter. As long as you own the car, it's your car. It can be a car. It can even be a little car. Maybe you got a little Toyota and you say, well, I'd never be able to sleep out in that. All I got's a little Toyota. You sure can. You can pull that back seat out of there so it goes right into the trunk. And you can take the front passenger seat out of there. And you'd be surprised how much more room you have. And then you can lay down a sheet of plywood in there, the length of a bed, you know, and you can put a piece of foam on the plywood, and you can put a pillow in there, and you can just live inside there. And you're out of the rain, you're out of the elements, you're out of the storms and winds and everything else. And you got a place to live if you have to bug out. You're going to have to do what you got to do. And when this situation hits. And on this side of it, it's a little bit difficult to tell exactly how it's going to play out, you know. But you got to have these plans in advance, you know. You got to figure to yourself, hey, you know, I'm going to make it through this 3 months, this really bad period of the hyperinflation. I mean, the hyperinflation itself is going to last probably 2 years, but that little tiny period of like 3 to 6 months, when it's at its peak, you're going to have to get through that. We're all going to get through it together, guys. We are. Let's take a look now at the Treasury yields. And the Treasury yields are down. We're looking at falling yields. And you know, there's these guys out there making a bet on these yields rising up because of inflation. I'm sorry, they're going to lose that bet. They're not going to let these yields rise. I know a lot of people are making bets on gold and silver going up to the moon. They're not going to let them rise too far either. The spot price, I mean. Did a show on that yesterday. I was telling you guys probably the limits about how far they're going to let the spot price go. They can't afford to let it go up too much more than that. They can control the spot price with the paper derivatives products of silver. It's SLV, GLD. They can control it, and they will control it. And what will happen is, even if they have a shortage in both of the metals, the premiums will just go up. That's all. And it's unbelievable how high the premiums, and also what they'll pay for the gold and silver. Basically, in the end, you're just going to have to completely ignore. Everybody's going to ignore the spot price. That's just there to keep the financial system working and greased, and they're going to go by whatever the dealers of gold and silver are charging. So the spot price might still be only like $30, right? I'll give you an example, But if you go into a silver dealer, he might be paying $200 an ounce. He might give you $200 an ounce for your silver, and he might be selling it for $300 an ounce out the door on the other side, And the spot price has no reflection upon that at all on the real marketplace where you're buying and selling gold and silver. In other words, you look at a gold and silver place like ATMEX, and what you might see is they might have a sign there. It says, call us for a quote. Call for a quote. You might not even see the price anymore when you go in there. It might be a big ad that says Silver Eagles for sale. Call for a quote or get a quote on the price. It might be so high, actual price might be so high, it might shock you, and people will be paying that price. It might be like $300 an ounce, and they might be buying silver from whoever will sell it to them for $200 an ounce. I'm just theorizing about all this. Meanwhile, the spot price is still only $30. What I'm pointing out to you guys is there's a time coming, I think, that the spot price is going to be totally irrelevant. Not going to mean anything. Take a look now at the dollar index. We're looking at 92.32 on the dollar index, and it's slowly falling today. I'm not surprised. It's even fallen against these other crappy currencies that it's being compared against on the DXY. Mostly the euro. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe. And we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.